All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us on episode 6 of Your Day with David. And today I have my good friend Daniel Gray here on the show for those listening and for those watching. Dan, a good friend of mine, I'm trying to think here, probably one of the older friends or longest standing friends that I've had here in the St. Louis area. And as always, I'll kind of talk a little bit, how did I meet Dan? Because it was more like just kind of a random meeting, I guess, if you want it. Basically, my first time seeing Dan was unexpected, I guess, is how I would say. And then Dan will, of course, kind of go into telling you guys a little bit about himself and maybe how he kind of ended up here in St. Louis with me. But again, I'll just explain how we met. So where I currently work, there was a product manager. I guess he's not a manager, just a product developer, Thomas Crowley, who currently now in
Oxford, England.
Good old UK. Is in the UK? Right?
Yeah. Oxford's in the UK.
Yeah, and getting his master's degree over there and living, I believe, with this girl Calissa over there too, right? Did she?
But yeah, you got married last year.
Yeah, the Mormons married quick. Yeah.
I think they dated a few months and then,
Oh, hey. When you know, you know, right? And as far as I know, happy as can be. Yeah, Thomas as well, a very interesting personality, and who knows, maybe he'll find himself on an episode here, but most likely through Zoom. I don't think I'll fly him back out to the States. Nor would he have time.
It's an excuse to go to Oxford now.
Yeah. And Thomas and he and I didn't interact a whole lot, but when we did at work, he being kind of the nerdy side of fintech with what he did, I was always interested in. He would also kind of stay later in the office with me. And we were kind of just talking about, this would have been March of 2020.
This is right before COVID.
Right before COVID.
If anybody can remember those days.
Yeah. And so we were talking, the way my work works, as far as vacation time goes, you can carry over a maximum of 5 days of vacation into the new year, but they have to be used by the middle of March.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to Thomas, and he was just saying, what are you doing with that extra PTO? And I was like, I think I'm just going to do a staycation kind of thing. And Thomas was like, oh, that's cool. And then he started talking to me. He's like, yeah, me and a few of my friends of mine we're planning this trip to Nashville. And me being the kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, reserved person that I was back then, that I didn't comprehend in that moment that was him inviting me to go to Nashville. So he was like, yeah, well, we're planning this big trip to Nashville. And then what did I say? It's like, oh man, that sounds so cool. Hope you have fun, right? Instead of being like, oh dude, yeah, I'd love to go. And
I feel like that kind of story you hear in like dating all the time.
Like just missing obvious hints.
Obvious hints, between guys and girls. And both sides are always like, how do they not see this? I'm giving all these signals. I'm like putting myself out there.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. I guess because what's obvious to us or to them is not to us.
We don't get it.
And I think the next day, I walked, because I kind of had like a oh crap moment, and it clicked, and I walked over to his desk the next day. I was like, so that trip to, or maybe it's like the next week, I was like, that trip to Nashville. He's like, yeah, what about it? I was like, you guys still plan on doing it? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, it's crazy. That's like next week. And he was like, oh, it is? Because he lost track of time too. And apparently none of the planning had actually taken place.
Well, that's pretty much Thomas, right?
Yeah.
Thomas has like he'll have these big ideas or whatever. In his mind, it's all whatever. But on like my side, I think he had like vaguely mentioned it to me, and then I told my roommate Ali, and we're like, yeah, sure, let's talk about it. And that means like Thomas already like, yeah, this trip's happening.
Yeah.
But no planning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Thomas, he's just a free spirit kind of guy, I guess. Also, awful at time management, which was a very good example of this, where he's like, oh yeah, we need to have this done. So very quickly we decided on an Airbnb and all this stuff to go to Nashville. And the Airbnb was nice.
Yeah.
Just this kind of, we were a little bit outside of the city. The owners were super cool. In fact, the guy that owned the place it was a granddaughter, right?
No. So we're there that weekend, and his daughter's. He's like, FYI, my daughter's supposed to have her baby at any second.
Yeah.
Right.
And it happened, right?
Well, so it happened. So this is how. So I call you Sheets, so I keep calling you Sheets, but
that's fine.
That's how Sheets and I met, and yeah, we didn't know each other.
Yeah, I show up to this Airbnb, right? I show up
well, basically, because me and my friend Ali, who's a friend of yours too now, yeah, we drove separate, and the whole thing was planned last minute. I remember there's like a big tornado that ripped through Nashville.
Yeah, the
right
weekend
before. So it was like, can we go? Like, what parts? Is and COVID was a thing, but not a thing that was really affecting any our lives at the moment.
Because that January is kind of like when it started.
Yeah, it was like, oh, this thing's over here now. It's in the U.S. and we didn't literally we know the whole world was going to be tipped upside down in a week or two.
Yeah.
But this funny story with this guy is the Airbnb owner. So he's like, yeah, my daughter's supposed to have her baby. Well, Ali, like, he comes out. There's 2 bathrooms in this house. I don't know if you remember this.
Remember.
He comes out and he's like, guys, the toilet's like, it's got a problem. It's not working. It's like,
Ali destroyed
the toilet. And so we got to call this guy. So this guy comes over and usually like you just use a plunger or whatever. It's not a big deal. No. He's like knee deep into it. Like he's doing a full toilet replacement. He's got to go to the hardware store. He's like ripping out the toilet. In the meantime, he's like, baby's on the way, phone call like happening.
Golly.
So he's like, all right, well so he's trying to replace the toilet, which is a mess, and like be there for his daughter at the same time. So Ali, the whole trip was like a continuous, rag on Ali. Like he blew up the toilet.
Yeah.
Like this is why we can't take you nowhere kind of thing.
See, this is why I like reminiscing, because
it was
highly about.
Yeah, it was fun. So that's how. So it was me, you, Ali, Thomas, and Matt, which was a friend of Thomas's, and so that was our connection was through a mutual friend. That's the first time, couple guys were on a trip. I don't know you, I don't know Matt, Yeah. So we're all at this Airbnb at this Nashville thing. And we toured Nashville. We went out, went to some clubs, good music.
Well, it's gonna be. We went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then we visited. I mean, obviously, a lot of good barbecue over there too.
Yeah, it was great. So.
And then I even one day met up with one of my friends, Matt Hahn, and we went out to that burger place.
Where Thomas sent the burger back. No, he didn't send it back.
He ate it.
So our friend Thomas, he's kind of cheap. Like, we love Thomas.
Frugal. He's a very frugal man.
I don't know how you want to say it, but we go to this pretty nice, like, bistro, burger, whatever place.
Yeah.
Thomas gets this burger. It's a little raw for his liking, so he tells the waitress about it. It's like, hey, it's undercooked. But I don't want to send it back.
He's like, I don't want to be the guy that sends back the burger. Like,
right. She's like, well, I'll just get it. No, don't send it back. I'll still eat it. I don't like wasting food.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, if you're gonna say something, let her fix it, or don't say anything at all. It's kind of the way. But that was like number one of talking to the waitress. But every time she would come back, I think Thomas brought it up again.
Well, it was something else. So what happened was, as Thomas continued to get through the burger, he noticed parts of it were cooked.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So he's like, well, this side's fine. And so she comes back, and he's like, I can't believe this is literally what he asked. He's like, like this part of my burger was actually good though. I don't know if like your guys' grill is like slightly tilted. He
uneven. He's like, I just want to look out for the next guy.
Yeah, he was like, just want to bring that up. And like you could tell this waitress is like, what in her head is like, what do I do about a tilted grill?
No. Well, and poor girl, because I mean, you know, you're trying to serve people and it's like, okay, this guy's bringing up the burger situation again, but doesn't want me to fix anything. So I think that at that point, after the second time, she like, you know, her manager comes over, a little while later. She's like, hey, I understand there's, you know, because she obviously told her manager, like, man, this guy is like multiple times bringing up this burger that's like undercooked or half cooked. And so she comes over and tries to fix it, and
I feel like there's people listening and watching too.
Yeah.
They're also divided on if it's wrong, get it fixed, and then there's also the people who are like, let the waitress, you know, leave her alone, let her do her job.
To me, the whole thing was funny. So at the end of the day, she brings this check, and she's like, I didn't charge you for anything. You know, he ate the whole thing, didn't get charged for it, like. So that's how like that ended up. So Ali was grateful because up until the burger joke, the burger thing with Thomas, we're still like bringing up the toilet thing, and now it transferred to like we're ragging on Thomas every time we went out to eat. After that, we're like, hey, is the food cooked enough? Like, should we let the waitress know but still eat it? Like, you know.
Like, oh, but like I don't want to like, you know, I don't want to like really bring it up.
I'm gonna bring it up like 5 times to you, but don't do anything.
Yeah. And so that was how we met. And then just slowly over time, it became maybe just pick up basketball or dinners at your place, or I'm not really sure how. It kind of, if I went to the memory bank, maybe a bonfire here or there.
Yeah, I mean, I would do a lot of things at my house, like game nights, bonfires. I like to cook, so like a lot of dinners. We'd play disc golf every once in a while.
That's what it was too, disc golf.
Started hooping, playing basketball. So
yeah,
a lot of interesting stories.
If I wasn't gone next weekend, it'd probably be a beautiful weekend to go disc golfing. I would think. I'll be in Galena, Illinois, visiting some friends.
I don't know where that is, but it sounds like in the middle of nowhere.
Don't worry, I don't know where it is either. Apparently, it's like I don't know, 20 minutes away from
Google knows.
Yeah. I guess so. That was the kind of the story of how we met. And I guess you guys got a little bit of background too on Buddy Thomas, and hopefully you'll get a chance to.
Thomas, hey from the States, hope you're doing well if you see this.
Yeah, hopefully we get a chance to see him on the show soon.
Hopefully they cook your food perfecto over in the UK.
Yeah. Maybe you just taste the same burger, and since they're over there, the grills are tilted the other direction, so it goes the other side too.
Yeah.
I guess, do you want to give a little bit of background on yourself? You know, that's another thing, Dan. You know, you and I have been friends now for 2 years. 2 years in a week.
Really?
You know, I don't think that it ever came up of like me, you know, talking much to you, asking about like your upbringing or kind of like your story, if you will. I mean, as much as I know from Florida, and I'll just stop there. I'll let you kind of tell a little bit about yourself so I don't give any spoilers out to those listening.
Yeah, I'm not from St. Louis. I grew up in Florida, sort of. I mean, I was born there. My family, there's like 5 kids in my family. Moved over to Virginia when I was like 2 to like 10. Moved over to West Virginia and then back to Florida. So pretty much since 6th grade, I lived in Florida. And then how I ended up in St. Louis is I went to college in Florida, and then I got a job with a railroad. Actually, I worked shortly for JetBlue.
Did you go to Central?
No, I went to University of Florida. In case the logo doesn't give it away. So I had a job that moved me around. I used to manage a railroad. And I moved from Florida to Tennessee to Georgia to Illinois to Virginia and finally St. Louis. And then.
But when you came to St. Louis, you weren't working, right?
No, yeah. I mean, that's what brought me. That job brought me here.
Oh, really?
So in 6 years, I moved like every year and a half. And then, so like a year or so ago, or over a year ago now. that job, they kind of wanted me to move again. And, it's moving at first was interesting, new places, new people, different experiences. But after a while, it gets old, the older you get, you start your life over. Every time you move, you're a new person, trying to make new friends. And that job I worked a lot, is kind of a 24/7 type job. The railroad always goes, never sleeps. So, it was a lot to handle. And so we ended up parting ways with that company. They wanted me to move again. And I was tired of, I kind of looked at my future. I was like, what am I going to keep moving like this, advancing my career? And I mean, you make money and you do things, but that wasn't really the most important thing, to keep going that direction. So we parted ways. And so since then, I've kind of, I had a goal. I mean, that was the type of job, like, if I went on vacation, I'm still like checking emails and things. Like, I would purposely try to choose places where I had no reception just to like get away, so I kind of wanted to like make up for lost time, I'd made good money and things. So I wanted to kind of live life a little more and travel around. But then COVID happened. So I had this plan, and then COVID happens, kind of messes up my schedule. And I mean, me, like I travel a lot, but kind of since COVID restrictions this last like year lifted, I've spent a lot of time. I went to Montana, spent a month in Utah. I go out to Utah a lot of, they got rock climbing and mountain biking, all the outdoor stuff, and I got some friends out there. So I've gone to Utah. The last couple of months I've been in Utah skiing for doing some skiing, ice fishing,
and before Utah, it was Mexico.
Yeah, I was in Mexico in December. I got a friend down there that I went down and do some diving in Cozumel and Cancun, and I noticed I had a friend that lives in Monterey, and he I kind of like, I had called him before, like early December. No, I texted him. He's the kind of guy, he doesn't really text. You gotta call him. You send him a text, you're not gonna hear from him. So anyways, we ended up connecting, so I went over and hung out with him for like a couple weeks, and I'm actually going back there next week, and then I'll be in Cuba for like a month. So
over in Cuba.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic, or maybe perspective, because you're talking about you as a person, you decided to part ways with the company you were with because you didn't like the idea of moving, but the idea of traveling is something that you kind of take a little bit to the extreme, right?
There's different reasons for that. But one of the things I liked about St. Louis, I lived in a lot of places. I was in Decatur, Illinois. So Decatur is a small town, and if you're like a single guy, there's like nothing going on. It's like 2 hours up the road from here, actually. And so when I got to St. Louis, this is kind of the first bigger metropolitan I've lived in for a long time. And I, through like networking, I made friends. It's actually the first friend I had is a friend of mine, Mike. He's like 74. The railroad, they move you quick. So I moved here, and I just needed a place to stay till I figure out if we're going to buy a house. So Mike had a room for rent downtown across from the arch. So I met Mike. And my second friend was Jerry. And,
I was going to say, I know Mike and Jerry, right?
Yeah, you met Mike and Jerry.
I've met them numerous times.
I'll be friends with anyone. And, I just had lunch with Mike yesterday. And Sunday, him and Jerry and I we're going to go to like some home show or something. So that was my first friends here, these two 70-year-old guys. Jerry's got his own family stuff. Him and Mike just became friends here.
How'd you meet Mike again? Sorry, I missed that.
He's my roommate. So I needed a place to stay. He was advertising. He had a 2-bedroom. He just had a room. So I rented that from him for a few months till I bought my house. I didn't want to come here and buy a house without knowing St. Louis at all. So when I moved out, I had a friend, Yusuf. He wasn't a friend then, but he moved in. So then I got to go know Yusuf because I still knew Mike. And then kind of basketball was the other avenue. I went and played basketball with this pickup and Garrett. You've met Garrett before. Garrett and Dave kind of went and played ball. No one really talked to me. I was headed out in the parking lot. My buddy Dave came over and he said, "Hey man, we're going to Waffle House." It was a Friday night. It's like 11. He's like, "You know, you want to go?" And Dave later told me, like a long time ago, he's like, "I'll be honest, you know, Dave's kind of like this bougie guy sometimes, but so I drive an Audi." And he's like, this was at a church, and he liked my car, and he's like, "Man, I need to be friends with this guy." Simply, he's like, "Oh, he thought my car was cool." So he's like, "Yeah, that was like a motivation." So anyway, so Garrett, Dave, and I went to Waffle House. I didn't know these guys, and then we just hit it off. We were there till like 3 a.m. like talking. But anyways, I say that so. St. Louis kind of meant something to me. I developed a social network that I appreciated. And when the company wanted me to move again, you know, life was going good. But this last year, you said what's ironic, like you stayed because you got tired of moving and then all you do is travel. Well, in kind of the last year, it's kind of been a rough year. A lot of my social network kind of, you know, a lot of my close friends kind of moved.
Yeah.
You know, my buddy Yusuf moved over to Michigan. Dave moved to Wisconsin.
Ollie's up in Minnesota.
You know, well, no, Ollie's still here, but he got married. A couple of friends got married.
Oh, he's still here?
Yeah, and there's other friends, you know, like Thomas moves over to England.
Wait, Ollie's still here in St. Louis?
Yeah, you didn't know he's there?
Dude, this whole time I thought when he got married and had his wedding up in Minnesota.
Well, he went up there to get married, but he didn't move.
Oh, this whole time. Golly. Man.
So,
okay. Now I feel
so,
bad.
so,
now I feel bad.
well, yeah, Ollie's still here.
All
He
right.
actually came out to Utah a few weeks ago. We went skiing and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he didn't move. He just, I get why you would thought he moved up there.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so kind of like the things I appreciated about St. Louis were kind of the people, and there's a whole list of people that kind of moved away, and then you know I had some other friends that friendships kind of like fell apart in the last year.
Yeah.
You know, different things in life happen, and you know I've kind of found. I feel like I'm the type of person that I give a lot to people, and you know I show up for friends and things, and
you should watch episode 3 of the podcast.
I'll have to go watch episode 3, and then I've noticed in the last year I've kind of tried to change myself because I realized like I surrounded myself with people, or some people that I would befriend and be very generous to, but they're not the people. They kind of show up and they take all the time. And these are people that were just kind of always taking from me. You know, I do fun things, I host fun things. I'm a very inclusive person. You know, I don't like people being left out, and I include people all the time for everything. And, you know, these are people when I'd have a hard time, nowhere to be found. You know, they kind of ghost on you.
So, you know, we talked about this, and I said episode 3, I'm at episode 4, where we talked about giving without losing, or more importantly, making sure when you do give, there's some reciprocity there in the relationship, right? Not just the take. And I guess now that you've kind of seen that, or and it might have been something you've that's gone through your whole life, maybe with different friend groups, although you moved around a lot, so it's hard to establish a long-standing friend group. I guess, have you noticed, or maybe I should just say, how do you feel you can figure out who is a genuine friend, right? Instead of someone that's, you know, there for the benefits, how do you know someone's there for your time, right?
I'm not sure if you really know until something occurs. You know, it's like in relationships. You start off relationships, everything's great and fine, and you kind of don't know what the substance, the meat of a relationship is until you have a trial. You know, something happens that causes issue, and then that kind of shows you a lot about people. Shows you a lot about the relationship, their true colors, and things, and you know. Can you know that before? I mean, maybe sometimes you could see people for who who they really are. But I mean, it's kind of cliche, but when the going gets tough, that's really you see like who your friends are, who your family really is, who people you think are important people in your life. You find out that either they are or they aren't, and those aren't really the times when you have hard times in life. It's probably not the time you want to find that out, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's when you do find those things out.
Yeah.
When you have tough times and struggling, and people all of a sudden people don't know you. And there's different levels of friendship. You have acquaintances, and you have people. I don't know circumstantial friends. What I mean by that is, there's guys I've been playing basketball with for a few years now, like 3 years. But that's the only circumstance. So are we friends? I mean, we're friends in that setting, but we don't really talk outside of ball. We don't really do anything outside of ball. And that's not a complaint. That's just where it is. So we have these different circles. A lot of people, it's work. You have friends at work. You talk to them. You feel like your friends. Do you do anything outside of work? So there's people that fall in those categories. They're kind of circumstantial friends. Are you? I guess there's different levels to relationships, right? There's a spectrum, and and then you have people you might hang out with more. In my mind, if there's people that come to my house all the time, if we're interactive, and that should be a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
Where people, you both include. I mean, people that you want to be around, and you enjoy spending time with them. They enjoy spending time with you.
Sometimes I feel, again, really what we're asking is what is genuine friendship? How do you find a genuine friend? Maybe if you're listening or watching, you kind of just have to ask yourself, what does this person give to me? This person in my circle, and you can write down all the people in your circle, and you can say, okay, person one, why am I friends with them? And come up with whatever laundry list you want, and then kind of just at the end of the day, you'll find you'll have people in your group. You're like, this is a person who's friends by association.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many people here in my St. Louis friend group, and they talk about other people, farther, connection, who that friend is the friend that they've kept in their friend group only because they've known them since high school or something like that, even though they don't generally like that person, they keep them around, things like that, right? Again, not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but is it disingenuous? Maybe. But I'm sure that person who, they've known since high school values that friendship maybe a little bit more than they would, right?
I mean, people evolve, right?
I hope.
I mean, there's tons of people I was friends with in high school. I don't know where they are, who they are anymore. You change. I feel like this stage in our life, though, in my mind, it should be more steady. We've gone through our teenage and college years where you're figuring out who you are, and not that you know for certain, but typically in this stage of life, you kind of are more at a steady state, I would think.
Steady as in what?
Steady state and like who you're probably the person you become that you're gonna be. Like I don't know. I'm definitely a different person. I mean, it's hard to say that.
I feel like you're just one more shitstorm away from being another different person, though, Dan. I can't tell you. Or last for almost 4 years now here in St. Louis, where I thought, okay, this is the person I am, and then something hits.
Well,
another person, something hits. I think I'm here to disagree with you. I think we're going to be different people for the rest of our lives.
I see that. I guess what I'm thinking is there's, I mean, we can't tell the future, but probably for the last, after college, I made friends there that I've been friends and I'm still friends with.
Mm-hmm.
So like longer term relationships and I guess I'm more of I feel like a steady person of who I am
Mm-hmm.
since then. Versus, growing up, it's like more of a rapid change. So I think that change still happens. It's just typically slower.
That's it.
Doesn't, it's not like 1 year to the next that you're like, oh, I heard this podcast and now I have a totally different view. Like, I think our views, our ideals, we don't change with the wind as much.
Yeah. I was talking with my buddy Kyle on episode 4 of the podcast how we want to change a lot of times, and sometimes what we need to change is advice from people we care about, right? People we respect. But even sometimes when we get that advice, we don't follow through on it. It takes, in Kyle's case, it took a moment of just like, stuff hit the fan. When it finally gets bad enough and you realize, okay, I can't live like this anymore.
I mean, I don't know if I should say it's unfortunate, but that's usually how people change. I mean, if you think from when people drastically change their life, it's usually something needs to motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we'd like to just go to the gym or do these things, all these things that would be great for us. I mean, it's easy to know what we should be doing that could benefit us.
Yeah.
But
you have to give up a lot, though.
Like the motivation. When life is good, like, we don't really, why would we just suddenly uproot our lives and flip our lives upside down if it's going great?
Yeah.
So it's those moments, you could see, like, historically, a lot of people find religion or they go away from religion, kind of like these big ideals in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually tied to some event that happens in their life, which causes them to go away from their beliefs or go toward a belief.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, shit hits the fan and everything slips upside down is when you're, like, vulnerable, humble,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, to make a change. Maybe those are the moments you can really, like, see yourself. I mean, I feel like I can look at myself and feel that,
Now, I guess, you said you've changed, maybe more steadily as of late, but I know, like yourself last year, tough year, right? And I'm aware of all that went on. We won't go too much into that, but now that you've done all this traveling and now the restrictions are a little bit looser, when you go to these places, do you get any perspective? Is there any kind of like life-changing things that happen? Do you get to meet new people? Do you stay just with the people you go there with? What do you do when you go see the world, Dan?
I'm an activity-based person, I think. I don't know. I go to cities, I explore, I do outdoor stuff, I do indoor stuff. I like jazz clubs. When I was in Monterrey, Mexico, found a jazz club. And I was like, told my friend, I was like, this is a very common thing though. New people a lot of times find the intricacies of places, and the people that grew up there don't know about them. So I go, and he's like, we have a jazz club. I was like, yeah, there's a jazz club. So, we go and we ended up meeting. A lot of people I meet is through networking. That's like just how I met you, a Nashville trip and like, hey, what's up?
I feel like when people hear the word networking, though, it's always associated with like work and stuff like that.
It's a professional sense, right? But for me, I mean,
how do you network in a social sense?
I mean, isn't that what we did?
Well, I for the people listening, how do you network in a social sense? I know what I did, but which is just talking with people. But a lot of people have social anxiety and reaching out to others and stuff, right?
I mean, I'm the same way. I'm not the type of person that go to the gym and like walk up to a girl and say, I feel like they don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be bothered. Like that's not me. I'm not like, but I feel like I excel in a social setting where I'm on a trip with a couple of friends and there's some people I don't know. I'm like, oh, this is how it's a low pressure situation. So even like being in Mexico, my friend there is a social butterfly. This guy like makes a friend in the gas station. Like everywhere we go, man, I don't know how he does it. He's like in some conversation with somebody, has no idea. Yeah, that's not me.
Mm.
But in a setting where like we go to a jazz club and he's got mutual friends, I'm very comfortable. And to me, that's just networking is networking, right? It sounds kind of a formal way, too formal to attach it to maybe meeting people as in friendships, but it's the same principle. You go to a professional networking event.
Mm-hmm.
If you network that, what does that mean? You're getting contact information. You're getting a way to connect with them outside of that meeting. And you have goals when you do that professionally because you're like, well, this person could serve some purpose to, you or them in the future. Well, in a friendship, it's no different,
I think the great thing, and the reason why it's called a network, right, is you have no idea the people that this person you met knows, right? And that's when doors open. A good example for me, just earlier in this month, for anyone that has been listening or watching the show, they know that I tried to go out and do like salsa dancing maybe once or twice a week, and there's these progressive courses with where I go, and I decided to do that as well. And there's a few, there's plenty of leads and followers in the group, but there's a couple girls there as well that are also in like the swing dance community, right? And we struck up conversation, and they're pretty much just invited me out to try out go see what swing dancing is all about, if you will. And where I grew up, we didn't have dancing of that sense. I think there's places that did ballet and hip hop, but for us here in the country where we grew up, the guys didn't do that, right? But I always had a very large appreciation for dancing in all of its forms, and so I went there, and it turns out that this girl, her friend group, are like all these people that have been swing dancing in the St. Louis area for years upon years, and they're all extremely good at what they do. And the next thing I know, I found myself in a new friend group. And if there's like meaning to that story, or a kind of a to-do or track record.
The thing that popped in my mind there is you say a friend group, and I would probably label that a new social group.
You would. However, I would say that, well, yeah, so I would consider them friends.
Okay.
From the interactions that we've had since then. For instance, I will be going to this like group potluck at one of their places tomorrow on Sunday. Maybe Veronica. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. That's another thing too, because again, it comes down to kind of putting yourself out there, right, and striking up conversation. That's hard for a lot of people, and it's tough to say. You just got to do it, right? You just got to talk to people, right? And I think there's a lot of people like, oh, what if I'm like, come off as like, I don't know, anxious or creepy, right, or whatever it might be. The only way to know is to do it, right?
Why is that? Why is it such a nerve-wracking?
Why is it nerve-wracking to meet new people? That is a very good question. I'd have no idea.
I think it's like, I guess for me personally, it's the what expectations we put on things. And for me, maybe it's like a psychological thing, but I try to take away the expectations that I have. So if I meet someone and I can strip away the expectations, not like it's a formal thing, but you strip away that, then it becomes far easier because it's like kind of inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's tough too, because the whole reason you go up and talk to someone is because there's something that you want from this person, right?
Well, and that's an expectation. So a friend asked me one time. He's like Daniel. He's like, you get like every girl's number. And he's like, you're not like nervous and things. And I explained to him, I was like, well, here's the difference between me and you. I'm looking at this person as strictly just a potential friend. I'm not talking to this girl because I want anything from her. It's not like, oh, this girl's hot, I want to date her or anything. It's strictly just a friend. So it's like, there's no expectation for me, and I was like, you look kind of like every girl as like a, not you, Dave Sheets, but like you as in this other person, look at them like because you want something, you think they're attractive, you want to date them, you wanted to go somewhere, and I was like, I don't have that expectation. I'm not even going for that, so it's easy because I'm asking a girl the same as any other friend. It's just I'm networking with them, and you could say, "What? So what's the point?"
Everything is networking.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's the phrase I'm throwing out today. But I mean, that's how I meet people, and I'm just thinking, I like to do a lot of things, and for me, if you like to do a lot of things I do need people involved, and so maybe that's my selfish aspect of my personality as well. I need people to be involved, so I need to know people if I want to do these things that I enjoy doing.
Are you a guy that could go to a movie theater alone? Or go to dinner by yourself, like to a certain restaurant?
I mean, I travel all the time, so I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a... Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's something that maybe
I love
back
going
in
to
college,
the movies.
right?
I love going to the movies by myself.
Really?
Oh yeah, I love it.
The ironic thing is, when you go with people, you still are essentially going by yourself.
Well,
that's why it's like a terrible date.
The reason
right?
I go by myself is there's the talkers, right? The people that want to strike up a conversation during the movie. And if I'm going to a movie theater, I haven't seen it yet, right?
Right.
And I'm going for the movie. I could be on a date. I don't care. Don't watch me. I want to watch it.
It's a terrible date.
That's the thing. Yeah, don't take a girl to a movie date if you want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
That's
if you want to watch them.
101.
Where you're gonna be like a teenager, like let's sit in the back in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're talking about how do you know it's friendship? There's all kinds of definitions, but you kind of have like the people you consider your homeboys, people that you would expect to be there for you. Like these are the people that would show up if you're having a hard time.
Expectations come later.
Right. So, you have your social groups, you have your circumstantial friends, your acquaintances, and these things. So I think that last year, sometimes there's people you think are significant people in your life and you realize they aren't. And, that's kind of not an awakening that doesn't really feel great to have those experiences, but it's a learning experience and realize these are people that, maybe you don't need in your life. Maybe you need to adjust that, and sometimes maybe you need to be a little more conservative with how you are toward people.
Yeah. And again, I'm sure people have heard it, but not every person that you lose is a loss, right?
Right.
There's some people that walk out of your life, and then sometime down the road, it doesn't need to be immediately. Sometimes it is immediately, but sometimes you look back and you're like, thank God that person was able to walk away. Because if they stayed, who knows what I might have missed out on. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, life takes us different paths. I've moved a lot and I've made a lot of friends. So I travel all these places. Most of these places I'm going, people are like, how do you afford this? I'm like, well, a lot of times I'm staying with friends that I know, and I know people like all over. I took a trip to Finland a few years ago and I stayed with a friend over there. Stayed with a friend in London. I went to Scotland. So,
I need to get my passport.
I invited Sheets. I was like, she's been having a hard time. I was like, hey, come down to Mexico.
I've been having a hard time.
come down to Mexico, man. Like, life is great. I'm on the beach. And he's like, I don't have a passport. It's like, what's wrong with you? Come on now.
Well, so the only time that I have personally been out of the country is good old Canada. Been there twice in my life for family reunions.
Without a passport?
Well, no, I had a passport.
Oh, okay.
But when I went, I was like 5 or like 8 years old. And so that passport has since expired and I need to get a new one. And I just don't.
I think everyone should travel outside. It's very, for me, it's not eye-opening. Not where I'm at in this life.
Where was the first place you went out of the United States?
London. I took a trip.
Yes.
I graduated from college. I spent the summer catching up. I spent 3 weeks playing video games because I did engineering school and it's kind of tough. Didn't spend any time. Didn't really have the luxury of like partying or whatever during college. So when I graduated, I'm still in Gainesville, Florida, and I was just like, everybody, what's all the video games I've been missing out on? So friends gave me games. So I didn't like sleep at all. I had a friend come over, I'm gaming. They come over the next day, like the next morning, still gaming. And they're like, man, you got up early. I was like, I didn't get up early.
I didn't go to bed.
I didn't go to bed. So I did that, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a trip. And funny story, I asked my roommate, I was like, hey, this is like a Tuesday. I was like, you think you maybe give me a ride to the airport Friday? Or no, this is the week before. Like next Friday? And he's like, for what? I was like, might go to Europe. And he kind of laughed. And so next Friday comes around, I was like, can you still give me airport? And he's like, for where? I was like, I told you I might go to Europe. I'm going to Europe. And he's like, what? So yeah, I took a random trip. I went to London, Paris, Madrid, and Finland, and I kind of bounced around over there. So that was my first travel experience.
And that was eye-opening, yeah? No?
I mean, Europe was eye-opening as they don't give you free refills. That was annoying. Trying to find a public bathroom.
I already don't like it.
You know, like, so those things. Europe is pretty... I get a lot of comments when I go to countries like Mexico, and people are like, think it's so unsafe and all these things. And I had a friend that was like, I got this piano. I did this little fundraiser for my friend. So I'm bringing a piano down to Mexico, a digital piano. He's like, are you sure? Like, can you have a piano? I was like, what? He's like, yeah, can you have a piano there? Like, it's gonna get stolen. And I was like, where do you think I'm going? Like, and people in St. Louis should understand this. Everyone outside of St. Louis just thinks we're going to get murdered all the time because that's what people see in the media. You know, it's usually the negative. St. Louis has been top of the list for a few years for like murder capital. But unless you're going to, you know, most these crimes are typically crimes of relation. People know the person that the crime is happening to. They're not like, we're not walking down the street getting shot at. So, you know, you go to the really bad parts of a town at 3 a.m. causing beef, then I mean, so Mexico's no different. You know, standard of living is nice. I mean, it's like anywhere. You have bad parts, you have good parts, you have people living higher, people living lower. And so, you know, I think it's important, like, people can kind of see those things. Where, you know, Ukraine's in the news a lot lately, and my friend Mike, we were talking about, he just went to Ukraine a couple years ago.
Nurse Mike?
No, Mike, the older Mike.
Oh, older Mike.
Yeah, so he works in the travel industry, and he had to go over there because Ukraine Airlines just got new to them, a new Boeing 777. It was like a used airplane, but you know, this is like the big thing. So he had to go over there, and like there's this big to do about it. He went and visited Chernobyl, and he was like, man, it's so pretty over there, and everyone's nice, and you know, it's just a perspective sometimes we have about things, and you know, it's kind of, you could apply that to people, right? You meet people, but what do you know about them? What are they going through in their life?
I saw this.
You know,
it's like, how do you know? God, how's the saying? When you ask someone, how's it going? And they say, oh, it's going. That's when you know it's bad. Or, and you and I were joking earlier when you ask a white person how it's going, they say, oh, living the dream. That's when you know they're going.
Living the dream. Living my best life. That's the new cliche thing. That, like,
when they are in fact not living their best life.
Everyone says that to me. You know. Someone had a comment, and I related to, you know, the story of Anthony Bourdain, right? Just travels around,
eating good food,
living
people,
living his best life. You know, so we say these things, and
R.I.P.
you know, I had a discussion with a friend. So I was like, I mean, Anthony Bourdain unfortunately killed himself. So you think everyone's living some kind of great life. But people struggle, and people just need friends, family, you know, whoever in their life. And we can do one thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're always doing great, you know? You can be on a beach in Mexico, that doesn't mean you're the happiest person in the world. So
And I feel like we sometimes, kick ourselves when we're down too. When, obviously we're the last people that need to be kicking ourselves. Especially, so you're talking about, like, even if you were on a beach in Mexico and you're supposed to be, everyone would feel like you'd be the happiest. But what I mean by kicking yourselves when you're down is, like, sometimes you're in that situation where everything is going good for you, right? You could be on the beach in Mexico, or you could be out at a party with all your friends around you, or you could be eating some good food, watching your favorite show, hanging out with but sometimes you just feel not good, right? And then we kick ourselves and say, man, like, I have all this stuff going on for me right now, like, why am I not happy? Why can't I just be happy for myself? And two things. One, I think we all want everyone to be happy, right? But two, it's okay to just not be happy, right? You don't need to continuously put yourself down. Like, it's okay to feel bad, right? Obviously, it comes down to, there's probably things that you're not satisfied with. There's things that you want to work on, but also sometimes our minds just aren't kind to us, right? They're not kind. And I'll give some of my own personal experience where I could have a great day, and there's been a lot of those recently. You say I've been going through stuff, but no, I mean, especially this podcast too, which we're already at, over a month doing this. It's something that really fills my cup and gives me so much joy just talking to my friends, my genuine friends, right? But sometimes it's when it's all over and you're ready to go to bed, and it's just, there's no noise, it's quiet, and then you're just by yourself with your thoughts, right? And a lot of times those thoughts, they're just not true. I think it comes down to whatever you're telling yourself. You have to remember that it's you telling yourself that, right? No one, we have all these negative projections onto us. In some cases, it is other people that have said those to you, in which case, those people probably have more on their plate that they don't care to share. But a lot of times it's ourselves putting all this negative projections onto us and all this weight that we carry, and we just need to focus on saying, okay, that's not true. This about me is not true. No one told me that about me either. And just going through that checklist of, like, what is true about me. I'm a caring person. I work hard. I think that family is important. I love my job. I'll do anything for those around me. Whatever it is that's a positive about you.
So what do you think the substance to why that is? Because I think it's, the thing is the problem is redefining where we're putting our value. And so those things we're telling ourselves that are negative, because you can remind yourself, like, I'm this, I work hard, or your qualities. But I guess in those moments, we're putting excessive value on these negative things, and that's probably the problem. I read a book last year called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
I've heard of it.
And it's a quick read. It's not like life-changing, but basically the essential theme to this guy's message was about a value system. And he's basically like, the key to being happy isn't telling yourself to be happy. It's becoming content, learning is, one example he gave is, if you can learn to accept the negative outcome or negative experience, that's a positive experience. Versus constantly chasing some kind of positive outcome is actually a negative experience. It's kind of a paradox of sense. And, so these things that we're telling is like, everybody's been there. sometimes like, I mean, that's a key thing. Like everyone has it. You have days, and then when you get to your thoughts, and then now you're on this negative cycle. And I think we get onto that is because we're putting excessive value on the negative. And so it's like you said, like the key is that you try to break out of that. Try to, not only like what you're telling yourself, but like take your value or redefine the value you have for these things that are upsetting you.
Yeah. I saw this one thing not too long ago, and I think it was a little bit about, I don't know, I think it was like a Buddhist post or something along those lines. Again, not advocating for any type of religion here on the show, but I think that there's value systems and life lessons to be had anywhere. And I think sometimes we confuse happiness with pleasure, or say satisfaction. Whereas I think you're right, we're being content. So when you chase things like pleasure, like doing the things that you like, you're constantly chasing it, and when it's over, it's gone, right? So you have to continue that chase, and so a lot of times, there's these quick spurts of happiness, or what we call happiness, and because of that, since we're always chasing, we're never satisfied, we're never happy, and so what this message was saying was essentially, being content with where you are and what you do have is where you should start, or what you should base your happiness on. And then those other things are, gravy on top, if you will.
So the hard part is changing that.
The hard part is being happy with where you are.
Yeah.
Or who you are.
Changing your value system to put, this is what I value the most, and I have this, and therefore I'm satisfied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Figuring out how to do that's difficult.
It is, and I don't even know if I could tell people how to do it, but
I don't know how to do that.
I would tell you.
I know how to chase.
I can just tell you.
I know how to
chase happiness.
Keep chasing happiness. I mean, what does that look like? It probably looks like my life, a guy that just travels around so far this last year, going
just looking,
going wherever. I think part of me is hoping, I don't know, figuring maybe life will take me somewhere.
Yeah. I guess, God, we've talked about quite a bit. Are there any kind of like life, and Dan, feel free to share if you will. How old are you now?
36.
36. Any life lessons? Is there like one thing that really you feel is a core principle of who you are as a person that you want to share with those listening?
I don't know. I think everyone that knows me would say a core. I feel like I'm a very insightful and caring person toward people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I'm perceptive about people, their state, how they're feeling. And I think the difference in me that's central to me is I'm a person willing to do something about it. And a lot of people aren't,
About it. What's it?
About whatever is going on in somebody's life.
Mm.
I feel like I'm a person willing to, be there for someone else or go out of my way or try to do something. I'll tell you a story, a few months ago, hit up a friend, fighting on basketball, and he came to ball, and you could tell like this guy wasn't doing well. Yeah. He wasn't doing it at all. Like he looked like he was about to have a breakdown. So after, I was like, hey, what's going on? And he wasn't really opening up about what was happening or anything. But visually, like the cues. And I think a lot of people would have left it there, but this person's a good friend of mine. So I said, hey, let's go get a beer. Let's go like something. And he didn't want to go out or anything. So I was like, well, let me just come over and hang out. So I came over and hang out, and he kind of unloaded like everything going on in his life, happening. And for me, kind of core to the person I am is I've always been that person willing to do that. And I think a lot of people, they aren't willing to step out. For me, it's not stepping out of my comfort zone. It's just who I am. For other people, why aren't that they like that? If you have people in your life that are friends, they're good people to you, why aren't you a person to be there for someone? I don't know. Are they scared? Do they not give a shit? I'm not sure what the answer is to that. I've experienced that a lot with people throughout the years. I'm not sure why.
So
The positive thing would be,
So I guess the lesson is be a person that's willing, whatever that means.
I mean, you gotta be who you are, but asking me like what's something core to me, I mean, I would say everyone that's been around me has probably experienced that. I think I've been a significant impact to a lot of people in their lives, and many people like big ways, and other people small ways.
Yes.
Sometimes the smallest ways are the biggest things.
I guess if we're talking about things that white people say, that's something you can hang your hat on, huh?
Yeah, something you can hang your hat on.
Sure.
Does it matter? I don't know. We are who we are. If you're asking yourself who you want to be, then just do it.
Well, I think that's kind of the first step. If you're already asking yourself who do you want to be, that's step one. Because you already know that you don't want to be the person you are now. That's what changes, right? You have to ask yourself that question.
Sometimes we get lost. Everything, like you said, we thought we change over time, and everything blows up, shit happens, and we're refiguring out life. Where do we go?
I think that's a good place to end. So, I guess the takeaway for those of you all who feel lost, here's two people right in front of you that going through that too, or in different ways than one, and just be the willing person, be the person that's going to step outside of your comfort zone and try to find those genuine connections, and ask yourself, what do people give to you, right? And try to meet people without expectations. Try to network. I will use Dan's word. Try to network, because you never know who this other person knows, and you never know what doors are going to open in your life and what happiness.
It's kind of who do you want to be to other people in their lives, and kind of vice versa.
Yeah.
So
don't chase pleasure, chase contentment, and
chase contentment.
Yeah.
And make a T-shirt. Chase contentment.
Sure. And if I guess for those, Dan, like you said, he reached out to his friend that just, you can tell something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. If you know someone, you see someone's energy is different, you reach out to them, and obviously that's kind of why we're here too. If you know someone going through all that stuff, and they, maybe they can't verbally express it, but you can tell.
Some people just need you to give a shit.
Yeah. Well, and that's,
right?
There's no expectations as well for us here too. So let them, share the podcast with them. Let them just sit here and listen to us talk about, life, and, let them know that they're not alone. We're going through it too. And as always, if you or someone feels like you need a friend, you can come meet mine. And we'll see you all next week.